This is The Focus Group with business insiders Tim Bennett and John Nash.
I fought worse monsters than you for years in Hollywood. I know how to win the hard way.
We're all business, except when we're not.
Don't f with me, fellas! This ain't my first time at the rodeo.
Hey, welcome to The Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, and as always, I'm with my good friend and co-host, John Nash, where we like to take an entertaining, I guess it could be interesting, an entertaining look at the world of business.
Right now, it's off the rails. Well, that's all I'm going to say.
We've already started. We haven't even started yet, and it's off the rails. I feel like we should have in Manhattan. Be sure to join us here. We're going to say every Saturday still, but there's new shows that'll land every Saturday. The best way to find us is to go to focusgroupradio.com and click on the Listen Here icon. John says there's a landing page there.
Yep.
And or you can search iTunes, or a number of other platforms will be there. And as we said, new shows every Saturday. And we also have a phone number if you want to call and ask us a question. We have a new segment called Ask Tim and John. You can go to 914-362-4787, which is 914 Focus Group GR, or I'm sorry, Focus GR, and leave us a message or tell us what you think. So, John, did I forget anything?
You did.
What did I forget?
You and I spent some good money on a copywriter, and that copywriter came up with a new tagline for the show.
Didn't it say it already?
No, I think you know, with performance, you imagine you say things because, you practice.
I mean, in the imaging, didn't it say it or not?
We're all business.
Except when we're not.
That's what we paid for. I want to get my
money. All right,
money's
so
worth
John wants his money's worth. So this is The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. We're all business, except when we're not.
There you go.
So on the show today, we're delighted. One of we like to say she's a family member of us here at The Focus Group, author Erin McHugh, and she's
I love to do this too.
You're going to hold up her books?
I could say
she actually is a working author.
She's a working author. She actually makes money.
Makes money selling books.
Yeah.
So she's done over 20 books, and she's been a fan, or I'll say a family member. Part of the Focus Group family. Been on a number of times. Her latest book is apropos, considering we're into election time for a new president, called Political Suicide. I want to ask her where you want to read the whole title, because I want to ask her who came up with it.
Okay, so it's Political Suicide: Missteps, Peccadillos, Bad Calls, Backroom Hijinks, Sordid Pasts, Rotten Breaks, and just plain dumb mistakes in the annals of American politics.
So speaking of copywriter, who came up with that title? I would just call it Political Suicide, but we'll ask her about that. So
I think that's a good subhead.
She'll be joining us later in the show. And, of course, we'll do our usual banter. We'll have our shop talk, and then our interview, and then ask Tim and John. Well, one thing I wanted to mention is that be sure to join, if you'd like to join John and I, in June, we're going to be taking a trip out to Sonoma. We're going to be going to Gay Wine Weekend.
Is it really? It's actually out in the vineyard, right?
It's called Gay Wine
It's Gay Wine Weekend, but the logo they have is out in the vineyard.
Well, it's outinthevineyard.com is
That's
where you would go check it out. Right. Okay. They're the ones who put the event on, but it's their Gay Wine Weekend event. It's Friday, June 17th through Sunday, June 19th. And we've met those guys last year when we were out in Los Angeles.
Yeah, we were doing a live broadcast from L.A. from the International Gay and Lesbian Travel Association's annual conference, the IGLTA. And we met Gary and Mark, who are the guys that run this.
Out in the vineyard, right.
Out in the vineyard. They brought us T-shirts. It's always great when people bring us swag. We like giving away swag.
I didn't even think of that. We should have worn the T-shirts.
They brought swag. They gave us T-shirts. Yeah. And they're so passionate about having people discover Sonoma and the wineries and the fine dining and just the experience that after they left the studio, Tim and I are like, why aren't we doing this?
Yeah.
Like, why aren't we going?
Well, we'd love to go. So we're going this year. We're going to be heading out to Sonoma in
must have heard us, right?
June 17th. And I looked at the itinerary. They gave us an itinerary. The best thing to do is if you go to outinthevineyard.com is you can select your own itinerary for what...
you could put it together, right?
What you want to do. But they put down a sample one for us, and I wrote in the notes on Saturday, the 18th, starting at 10 a.m., it says winery tours and tasting, and I just put dangerous fun. Because I had done a wine...
I'm not driving.
I had started wine tasting once that early in my last trip to Sonoma and Napa, and by 3 o'clock we had sampled.
Oh my God, I know people who do bike tours through Sonoma, Sonoma and Napa, and I'm thinking to myself, you're on a bike, and when you're sampling wine, wasn't the idea that you're supposed to kind of not... You have a sip and then you spit it out, and everybody drinks it.
You got to drink it.
Everybody drinks it.
Drink it, John. Would you spit it out really?
I didn't. I never
No,
do,
don't
and that's
spit
the
it out.
problem. But like a couple hours later, I got this.
I always see those
like,
people there and they sample and then he spit it out. It was like you're drinking Silver Oak. It's $100 a bottle. Don't spit it out. Drink it.
All right, so for this weekend, though, when we arrive, we kick off the event on Friday. The opening receptions is something called the MacArthur Place Hotel, which is supposed to be really nice. Saturday, we're doing a big wine tour, right? We leave from the MacArthur Hotel.
Right.
That evening, I think there's like a twilight tea dance, and I circled this one. Did you been to Saint Jean?
Yeah, and they have a very good Chardonnay.
Beautiful. Yeah, they do.
They have a really good Chardonnay there.
I circled that.
And then there's on Sunday, there's a brunch and a wine auction, and they're calling it the Big Gay Wine Auction. The interesting thing about it is the proceeds, they raise money for Face to Face, which is a Sonoma County nonprofit, and their mission is to end HIV/AIDS in Sonoma County, and they also support the health and well-being of people living with HIV and AIDS. So it's a great event. It's a great cause, and we're looking forward to it. We're going to have a lot of fun,
Yep.
I hope.
And you could come meet us in the flesh.
Meet us in the flesh. Like people used to meet us at pool parties, but this will be meet us over a glass of wine.
You know, I think was it one of those all the pool parties we did, wasn't I eminently distracted?
All the time.
Like, you know,
You get distracted a lot.
flesh, a bare chest,
Guys in the
a Speedo comes
and
by, and I'm like off my game.
showing all their stuff. We'll post this over at Focus Group, our Facebook page, which is Focus Group Radio. We'll post this. We'll post the dates and the way you can contact it. It sells out pretty quick, so be sure to, if you're interested in going, that you check it out and join us in Sonoma in June.
Again, the dates are Friday, June 17th to Sunday, June 19th.
It's going to be fun.
It's, out in the vineyard.
I don't know what to wear, though. I was wondering about that. I was looking at the pictures. I don't know.
Shorts, t-shirt.
Are you sure?
Well, I'm not dressing in slacks and a shirt to go, with a bunch of people on a bus tasting wine. They don't. You've seen how it's cash.
I don't think we're taking a bus. You think we're on a bus?
Wait, no. Reverse that question around. Do you think we're in a stretch? Do you think
That's how I do it.
A town car. That's okay.
Going in a limo. But
No, that's what you want. You want the limo.
Dirty old bus. No. All right. Well, that'll be fun.
All right, Mr. Bennett. We read a great deal, you and I. I probably read too much of all the wrong things, or maybe the right things.
What are you reading now? Is that what you're going to tell me?
Well, I'm reading a lot of books on animation because of my schoolwork,
Right.
But that's really kind of fun and interesting. But what caught your eye this week from the news is what we're going to do now.
It was almost like a Jeopardy question for the caught my eye this week. And I saw this. So I woke up at 2 a.m. and I had CNN on, and there was a ruckus happening. So as I listened...
Was it a preview of the Republican convention?
Well, it actually was something to do with politics, but
Okay.
this was interesting. So this is a question for you. And the question is, this is the only place under United States jurisdiction where the rule of the road is to drive on the left.
The only...
So, in the
Is it a territory of the U.S. or
Well,
something?
I'm just...
So it's like the U.S. Virgin Islands or something, right?
You're a dickhead. Yeah, that's what it is. I didn't think you'd get this at all.
Well, because the rest of the Virgin Islands are owned by Britain, I think, right? And they drive on...
How did you get... You can't find Wisconsin on a map, and you know about driving on the left-hand side in Virgin Islands?
Yes. It's a weird this brain, but it does funny things, huh? And that's
Right.
like off the...
Way to shorten the show. Here I'm thinking we were going to go on and on and on. So now I have one more then.
Well, that better be a long one, right?
It's not a long one, but you'll go next. So you and I like the pumpkin spice craze we've talked about. It's a little early in the season. We're in May. We're Mother's Day weekend, right?
Yeah, this is Mother's
Day
Day
weekend. Happy
everybody.
Mother's Day.
This can't be...
So they're starting early with pumpkin spice, with releasing what's going to happen.
5 months early?
Yeah, which I was shocked about, and that's why it caught my eye. So this says, brace yourself, pumpkin spice fanatics.
Oh.
They said that General Mills has decided that they're created a new flavor of Cheerios called Pumpkin Spice Cheerios to help goose the brand because it's not doing too well. So the limited edition flavor will come out in stores right around Labor Day. They're going to be doing a Cheerio pumpkin spice. I don't know.
Cheerios.
Cheerios.
I love Cheerios.
Apparently there's a problem with them. They said that they're not selling as well as they used to. I thought little kids ate them all the time.
All packaged cereals are not selling that well.
No.
All packaged. Although I must say I will be very sad if Frosted Flakes goes away. That was a go-to. And Captain Crunch.
Well, John, you can't eat that stuff anymore.
No, but I remember the days when that was. Remember in college, you'd wake up after a bender or a dorm party, and it was like a bowl of Captain Crunch. You were off and ready to run.
You know what they did in my college? I went to a little school in Ohio, Marietta, where they did the sugar puffs. Are those yellow things, the corn sugar?
Kicks.
Is that what they were called? And there was something else that was the.
Well, there's Tricks or Ferrari.
Anyway, they did these with vanilla ice cream.
Tricks are for
so you
kids,
went and
that's
you get the soft serve vanilla ice cream, and then you threw that
into the Kicks. Then?
sugar pop cereal on it, and everybody ate that.
Sugar Pops. That's you're talking about the yellow ones.
Yeah,
the
yellow
round
things.
orange was Kicks.
There were sugar bears, which I didn't like. They got too mushy, but sugar
See,
pops.
we were only allowed cereal like Captain Crunch with peanut butter balls. There was
to cut your mouth to the roof of your mouth.
Yeah, remember, it was so
Crunch
sharp.
berries.
Yeah, but we were only allowed that like one Saturday a month or something. Then you were.
What else did you
bouncing
eat?
off. Well, it was oatmeal or egg.
Your mother made oatmeal in the morning?
We knew nothing of store-bought goods. You know that. My family knew nothing of store-bought goods. My mother was constantly baking in the kitchen. The fact that there were Entenmann's boxes in the garbage didn't matter. She was constantly baking.
I hope you get her a set of Pyrex for Christmas.
You want me to get her like a marble rolling pin and a board one day when that one came down. All right.
So what caught your eye?
Two things. In the interest of preserving the planet, Apple has this massive recycling program. So you could bring an old Apple device, or you could bring any old electronic thing to one of their stores. But here's the thing that caught my eye. It says Apple's recycling program netted $40 million in gold alone last year.
Where's the gold?
It's in all the electronic parts.
That's better than that Alaska bearing thing where they're scraping the bottom of the ocean. Just get some Apple computers.
Well, wait.
Right?
In order to get that kind of gold, okay, so here, over the last year, Apple processed 90 million pounds of electronics that were unwanted or broken. It turns out that they were worth nearly their weight in gold. As stated in their environmental report, which they put out, most companies do this, about 2/3 of that 90 million pound scrap heap was composed of reusable materials. That's not bad. With steel, cobalt, aluminum, copper, and silver among them. 2,204 pounds of the spent or abandoned Macs and iDevices were gold, which is approximately 40 million worth of the stuff. So out of 90 million pounds, they got 2,200 pounds of gold.
What was the title of that article?
Apple's recycling program netted 40 million in gold last year.
We're obviously reading very different stuff. Where was that?
Gizmodo.
Yeah, we're not.
What do you get for recycling with Apple instead of selling your old, completely non-functional MacBook on Craigslist? Besides the satisfaction of reducing e-waste and a gift card, you'll also get these exclusive.
Do you recycle your Apple products?
If by recycling, I mean I pass them down the chain. Yeah,
Right, but you don't do that sort of thing.
Rarely. I mean, when a device it gets to end of line, like we had just stuff that's just died, like an iPod, for instance, or an iPod would die or something like that.
Did I tell you I'm a little mad at Apple?
No, was that your only? Did you have only one caught your eye?
I too. You ruined my Virgin Islands one about driving.
Oh, that's
on the
right,
left-hand
because
side.
everybody knows. Okay, yeah. Listen to me. Everybody knows that you.
I don't think a lot of people know that. I thought, oh my God, I had a strike of brilliance that night at 2 a.m.
My only other one, by the way, and you were gonna say you're mad. Well, let's hold on the mad at Apple thing for a second, because you're always upset with them for some reason.
Well, when you mentioned the iPod, and so do your other caught your.
Oh, you have the spin wheel one.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed the spin wheel one. All right, so the other one is a favorite children's book of mine is celebrating its 75th anniversary.
Curious George?
When he swallows the puzzle piece, that was one of my favorite books. Because remember the X-ray that showed the piece in the stomach?
I love Curious George.
Curious George is great. But this book, I wonder if you read this as a kid, called Make Way for Ducklings. It's famous. It takes place in the Boston Commons. It's about a family of ducklings that have to cross to the Charles River or something.
Yeah, that was not something that would have been approved. Isn't that a little story? Kind of girly, isn't it? Girly story?
No, it's a classic children's book. People of all ages love it. Apparently not in your family.
That's kind of a French book, like, make room for ducklings. And we were doing like Bully the Bulldozer and that sort of thing. Make room for ducklings.
me too. But I had time for Make Way for Ducklings.
I didn't read
and we had to read it because
your mother was a teacher.
Well, here's what the deal was. So we
raised animals.
We had to read Make Way for Ducklings, and that's the cover. Remember that?
Yeah.
We had to read it.
So they didn't get stuck in the sewer, right?
No. They make it safe and sound. And so once we all read the book as kids, we went on a road trip to Boston. And my parents took us to the park, and we saw the pond and the swan boats, and that's where Make Way for Ducklings takes place.
Another piece of the puzzle.
And then that book was followed by another classic children's book called The Little Red Lighthouse and the Great Gray Bridge, which is about...
I have no idea.
I am
The little gray lighthouse.
The Little Red Lighthouse and the Great Gray Bridge. Was I raised by wolves and some?
You probably watched, what's his name, the one with the sweater, Mr. Rogers.
No.
We weren't allowed to watch
I was
that.
a Captain Kangaroo guy. Mr. Green Jeans.
We liked Captain Kangaroo
and
was
you
my
could
guy
make
too.
Circus tents out of Kleenex boxes.
Then
and
Pee
all
Wee
sorts-
Herman.
Oh, and Pee Wee.
But so what was the Little Gray Lighthouse?
Little Red Lighthouse and the Great Gray Bridge is a story about the building of the George Washington Bridge. And at the base of the bridge on the Manhattan side, there's something called the Penny Light. It's a famous little red lighthouse that was built by kids collecting pennies.
Okay, so here's what's going to happen.
And so after that book, we got to go on the Circle Line and we got to see the Little Red Lighthouse.
So we usually used to do a summer reading list. So I think what we're going to do now is I want you to bring the kids' titles in so that parents can have them for their kids as to what they should do. Because I didn't even ever hear that book. We didn't have that sort of book either. You were a much more intellectual kid, I think.
I'm trying.
Everybody in the audience is nodding, yes.
I'm trying to grasp how
I'm
the
gonna ask
Little
our
Red
author,
Lighthouse
Erin
and the
McHugh,
Great
if
Gray
she knew
Bridge,
those books.
and Make Way for Ducklings, which these are like award-winning children's books. Minimal text, lots of pictures. I'm wondering why that escaped your radar somehow. I mean, did you read the Hardy Boys?
Yeah, but Make Room for Ducklings is kind of like a little
It's for like 7 and 8.
sissy book.
There now it comes out. Now
No, I didn't want to say it, but I think it's a little bit dandy. It's like a dandy.
this
book.
goes back to when you were assigned to my biology. I swear to God, I was.
Hey, listen.
Well, you saved our asses, but
No, but I can't imagine me. I think I don't want to say it this way because people get upset, but it sounds like a girl's book. Make Way for Ducklings.
I'm not going to get upset. I'm just going to cry a tear for the lack of cultural knowledge.
But I want you to come with a list of children's titles next time. Because I think it would be a good thing to do.
Okay, so you had to have read The Little Engine That Could.
Yeah.
That's
about a
boys-
train.
It's a boys' book.
Boys'
right?
book.
It's a train book.
Curious George,
Boys' book.
James and the Giant Peach,
Love James the Giant Peach.
Hardy Boys.
Frank. I had who's had the darker hair, Frank or Joe? Probably Frank.
I thought they were both blondes.
No, one was blonde, one is dark haired. And I didn't like the blonde one. I liked the dark haired one.
I like the
Do you
blonde.
never remember the name of their boat?
No.
The Sleuth. Do you remember the name of their overweight best friend?
I have no idea.
Jet.
You know what? This is where This is why when you
Okay,
do that movie
so-
game on the old show, it went.
If I told you that I also read most of Nancy Drew because I had sisters, and she had better mysteries than the Hardy Boys. I'm just saying, Nancy Drew had better mysteries than the Hardy Boys.
You know what we're going to do? We're going to have your mother on the show again.
I don't know about that. She'll tell you stories about me doing crazy crap.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. So, in honor of Mother's Day weekend. So today, well, that was good, John. But I'd like you to come with a list of
Children's books? Yeah. Okay.
So May 7th is a day. It's Mother's Day weekend, as we said. It's I pulled this because it reminds me of your partner, Bob. Do you know what today is? It's related to Bob's work.
Related to his work. So it's either the invention of... Was it National Napkin Day? Or?
National Package Design Day.
Okay.
Celebrated on May 7th. And the way this was written, I tried, it just was written like some very flowery prose here, and I just laughed about it. It said, "We're living in the golden age of package design. Packaging is now more than a means to protect a product or display name. It's the physical representation of a brand to the consumer," and it goes on and on about how most people don't think about packaging, but it really starts as a sketch.
Mm-hmm. Oh, think of Apple.
Then ends up at the...
Yeah, by the way, why are you so mad at Apple?
I'm mad at Apple because my computer, something happened with the software I had.
Yeah, I remember.
So I took it to the store, whatever, and then years ago, you had given me my very first iPod.
Yes.
You loaded it with music. And since I've had 3 or 4 different Apple computers, and the music on iTunes used to transfer, plug in the iPod and it would move. Well, it doesn't anymore. And so the guy at the store warned me when I went to get the new computer last month. He said, "Don't plug it in. You're going to lose all your music, other than what was on there on your
Really?
on your system." Yeah. And so I've been petrified. So I've got now 2 different iPods and I'm afraid to update them with new music I purchased or that I've downloaded because they said that as soon as I plug it in, it's going to wipe out the old stuff and just load the new.
Oh my God.
Racket.
No, I feel like I'm on Little House on the Prairie, and Nellie Olson's got a problem, and Laura Ingalls doesn't understand because she has no technology. I mean, are you serious? Are you really like?
All right. Well, listen. I will give
one
you.
of these geniuses told you this.
Yeah, he had a nose ring.
Well, okay.
He was dirty fingernails. That's the one thing I didn't like about the Apple Store. Who wants to go to the Apple Store with a kid with dirty fingernails? He really was a little.
Certainly
pig.
not you. And you bought hook, line, and sinker.
Well, he said to me, I said, listen, when you reload all this software, I said, I have an iPod that has all my music on it, and I want to update it and add my new music. He said, don't plug it in. You're going to lose everything. He said, it's going to revert. It's going to just give you the music that you've purchased. That's on iTunes. It won't take your music from the iPod. Is that true or not? If a listener knows how to fix it, give us a call at 914-362-8747.
I'm almost afraid to tell you.
914-FOCUS-GR. What?
It actually gets done and fixed because I'm not 100% sure, but I thought you had everything set up where you manage your music manually. There's a little checkbox.
No, I do. But he told me that it will not transfer now under this El Capitan or whatever the heck it is I have.
The new operating system, El
Yeah.
Capitan, yeah.
Whatever. You'll help me later.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So that's May. So May
by
7th.
the way, package design.
Yeah.
Yeah, Apple's really quite the king of it. Quite the king of package
simplicity,
design.
right?
Yeah, simplicity.
In 1926, what do you think our greatest, 1/3 of our exports were this in 1926? The United States would export. This was our biggest export.
1926.
I would have thought food or some sort of agricultural
Was that
thing.
during Prohibition?
It could have been, but it's nothing to do with an edible or
Nothing to do
drinkable.
with an edible.
No.
It wasn't coal, was it?
No, motors.
Motors?
It says motors.
As in, like,
Boom, boom.
well, I get the boom boom part, but
Yeah, motors. I don't know either.
Yeah, okay, all right.
1946, Sony was founded, the company Sony. This I had not known. I'm a little bit of a Politico kind of guy. I didn't know this, and I wonder if you knew this. So in 1954, the United States and the UK rejected this country's bid to join NATO. So this country wanted to join NATO, and the UK...
The UK rejected their bid.
The UK and the United States had veto power and said no.
Was it either
I think-
Poland or
No, bigger. And I would have thought...
Russia?
Russia, or Soviet Union at the time.
Did they ask for
They asked to join, and the United States and the United Kingdom said no. And if you think about it, particularly what's going on now in the world, how
been much-
different would the world be if
They were involved.
Russia was part of NATO right now?
Yeah. Wow. That's a time machine thing. Imagine going back and saying, no, let him in.
So I thought that one was weird. In 1998, Daimler-Benz, which is Mercedes, bought Chrysler. That was a disaster for $40 billion. Remember that?
I do.
And
It was a huge disaster.
huge disaster. Sunday, May 8th is Mother's Day. And Mother's Day was first celebrated in 1908 by Anna Jarvis at the Methodist Church, St. Andrew's Methodist Church in Grafton, West Virginia. She wanted to have the holiday in honor of her mother, so she'd gone to Congress and petitioned them. They came back to her and said, in 1908, if we have a Mother's Day, we're also going to need a Mother-in-Law's Day. So they said no. They finally, in 1914, Woodrow Wilson signed a proclamation making the second Sunday of May Mother's Day, and then Ann Jarvis got upset. She started boycotting it because Hallmark started selling cards in the 20s, and she said that they were making it too much of a
And here
commercialized
all
holiday.
along, I thought Hallmark invented Mother's Day.
Yeah, and Ann Jarvis did. Anna Jarvis did, and she's upset, so she boycotted it because she thought they were commercializing it. So that was too bad. New Coke was released on this date in 1985.
Coke was. Remember
May
New
7th.
Coke?
It was the 99th anniversary of Coca-Cola. It was a stupid idea. How does that happen?
They reformulated. Remember they reformulated, and it was so bad, and consumer outrage was so high that they had to like rush out Coke Classic.
Yep.
Although, in hindsight, clever idea, right?
A lot of publicity.
Yeah, and now
Still number one
now
selling
you could rebrand your
brand, right.
same old tired product as New Coke.
Well, they're
Classic.
doing a global brand idea. I don't know if you saw
saw
that.
that packaging
Coca-Cola.
design,
Yeah.
yeah.
On May 11th, Wednesday, one of the places I used to live was admitted to the Union as a 32nd state. Minnesota one of my favorite places that I lived. And also on Wednesday, the French Mint produced the very first European single currency. It was a coin known as the what, John?
The franc.
No, the euro.
The euro. Oh, it's the euro. Okay.
The euro, right? Remember the euro?
Got a euro with your name on it, honey.
Exactly.
Yep, I remember that story.
And then one final thing, business birthdays, and we're the only show in the universe that does business birthdays.
The universe is pretty big, too.
Friday, May
That would grain us
13th,
all.
is E.I. Scott's birthday.
E.I. Scott. Not like Scott
Edward
Lawn product
Irvin
people?
Scott. Close. He was the founder of Scott Paper,
Oh, my God.
which was the world's largest,
Scott Paper.
based in Philadelphia, was the world's largest manufacturer and marketer of sanitary tissue products with operations in 22 countries.
Wow.
It sold to Kimberly Clark for $3.6 billion in 1995. They also split off their Baby Fresh baby wipes, their Scotty's tissue, and they also did that Cut-Right aluminum foil for
Yep, I
Reynolds
remember Cut-Right,
Metals
yep.
in 86. They're credited as being the very first to market toilet paper on a roll. They also began marketing paper towels in 1907 and tissues in 1930s. They were
Wait. They were credited with toilet paper
on a roll. They're selling toilet paper on a roll.
I say to toilet paper on a roll, hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
So thank you.
So they said that they were Scott Paper was very successful, largely due to their advertising, which stressed the safety and the quality of their paper tissue, and they were calling it success-based advertising. So it was evidence-based advertising: better paper, better value, proof with reason, and then a command. So use, buy, trust. They were the first supposedly to do that in
I feel like I'm in school.
a formalized way.
Buy, trust.
Right. And they said toilet paper up until then was considered an unmentionable product, and you would never talk about
It's
it.
a sanitary. Yeah, it's one of those bathrooms.
They've been producing toilet tissue since 1890. Do you know what color is not made?
Yes, brown.
Did you read my notes beforehand?
No, you forget that I have a near photographic memory, and you said that on our show like 4 years ago. So anyway, I'm just warning you. It's near photographic. My mom even hates it. Everybody hates my memory.
What happened in science this week, Nash?
Science Week, week of May 7th. One of your favorite measurement systems in the world.
The Dewey Decimal
was
System?
developed by none other than one of your favorite countries. In 1790, acting on a motion by a bishop, Charles Maurice de Talleyrand, the French National Assembly decided to create a simple, stable decimal system of measurement units. Here's the part that gets me. It seems a little arbitrary, but they've decided that 1 meter, is going to be 1/10,000,000th of the distance from the North Pole to the equator.
Is this the metric system?
Yes!
That was a disaster.
Okay, so on April 7th, 5 years later, the convention decreed that the new Republican measures were to be henceforth legal measures in France. The metric system adopted prefixes Greek for multiples and Latin for decimal. Bonjour.
Il y a beaucoup de gens qui rentrent vite à la maison.
And May 9th, the birth control pill was approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. That's a big one.
Did you know anyone in school took the pill?
I'm sure we did. I don't think we knew. No. We probably knew them, but we didn't know they were taking the pill, right? This one I love.
You had a girlfriend that took the pill.
May 11th, the first U.S. regular TV broadcasts commence in none other than...
Philadelphia. New York.
Yes, New York, but where?
Where?
Think industrial Schenectady.
Oh, for God's sakes. Schenectady. What was it?
The programs lasted from 1:30 to 2 p.m. on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Friday.
Does it make way for ducklings?
Yeah, it was the Little Red Lighthouse,
Make way
and
for
Great
ducklings.
Gray Bridge.
Schenectady.
So you could only watch for half an hour. Most of the viewers were on the technical staff at nearby GE.
Sounds like North Korea TV. You can only
Exactly.
watch a half an hour. Watch cheesy.
which had designed the system and was using the broadcast to refine its equipment, and hobbyists could also tune in. And then my favorite thing from that same day, May 11th, did you grow up with the Guinness Book of World Records?
Yeah.
I loved the Guinness Book of World Records. I would sit there and look through the thing. Oh, so do you remember the famous Siamese twins?
Well, I was just going to say, I was fascinated by the Siamese twins. I used to look at them all the time because I couldn't figure out how you
Chang
would live.
and Eng.
How do you go to the bathroom?
Well, Chang and Eng were born of Chinese parents in Siam, which is Thailand. Upon immigrating to the U.S., they adopted Bunker as their surname. So they were Chang and Eng Bunker. I know.
And I remember the real tall guy and the short person
Yes.
on the table.
Tallest guy yet, and Tom
Tallest
Thumb.
person in the world. And
They were joined at the waist by a band of cartilage about 8 inches in circumference and 4 inches long. And here's the part that gets me. Only after their death was it found that this could have been easily separated. They didn't have to be conjoined. They could have been easily
They have
separated.
4 legs?
Well, yeah, they were complete people. They were just joined. They were discovered by Robert Hunter, a British merchant, who decided to give them passage and other things and to make them basically a curiosity for a world tour that he was doing. Later on, they were introduced to P.T. Barnum.
So they made money that way.
They made money. Yeah. They ended up settling down in Wilkesboro, North Carolina, and they married, and they had 10 kids between them. Yeah, okay, so that's a whole nother thing. So here you are, conjoined twins. You both have wives. They married 2 sisters.
I'm
with
just
whom
more
they-
concerned about how they went to the bathroom, let alone having intimacy.
You know, I think they probably developed systems for that. You look this way. Here, what are their names? Chang and Eng. Chang, you read the magazine.
What do you want to do tonight?
Eng's going to do the business. Eng, you did. And
I'm tired. You Chang.
But I loved reading about them and the Elephant Man and the tallest.
So this
guy.
was a stretch. This is science.
This is
the week in
This
science,
is the week in science.
or the
yeah.
week in the Guinness Book of
They
World
were born.
Records.
They were born. The twins were born on May 11th. That's science.
I do like this better than aerospace.
Well, it does. You know, we used to do a thing on our old show where I would have my day in aerospace history. It would be like the flight of Boeing's first commercial aircraft, or whatever. And that kind of this I found was when I said to you, I'm going to change this to Week in
Yeah, I
Science. You
like
said, yeah, you're going to find a lot more pay dirt there.
That's true. You certainly did. All right.
All right, where are we? Let me get my schedule here.
You're saying
we're good.
Taking a break.
Yes. Okay. Hey, it's the Focus Group with John Nash and Tim Bennett. We are going to take a very quick break, and when we come back, I think we have shop talk on the agenda, and I like this one. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Focus Group is brought to you by the newly redesigned Volkswagen Passat. It's time to give your family a serious upgrade. Visit VW.com to learn more.
Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host John Nash, where we like to take an entertaining look at business, and we're the Focus Group where we're all business except when we're not.
Thank
Did I
you
say it
for
right?
we're all business except when we're not,
Except
and that
when
was
we're
a
not.
paid-for copy line. I want to
John
get my,
wants his money's worth, so we're
Mileage out of that,
gonna
baby.
push that. Coming up later today, we've got author Erin McHugh joining us and share her new book with us. But right now, we're going to do a shop talk.
Tim, we could try something. Wait, we have Erin McHugh coming in.
Erin McHugh
I was going
coming.
to
Can you
put.
do
Yeah.
that?
See the hand come in.
I think you're on the
feel
Tonight
I'm
Show
David.
already.
Yeah, I feel like I'm on the Tonight.
And you like the way you look.
I do like the way I look.
think
I
I
like
need-
Erin's book. Looks good too.
Are you doing anything with glasses? I can't see. I can't see without glasses. I have to go back and forth with my glasses. So the
This is a good shop
So
talk.
the shop talk this week,
Good
I was going through a number of things, and a lot of times we talk about goal setting and different goals at the beginning of the year, things that people want to accomplish, and the usual things that happen on January 1st, and the goals are usually broken by January
Lose
10th.
weight, go to the gym,
Right.
Get a new job, get a new career, whatever it is. Yeah.
So this headline caught me, and it said 15 completely reasonable goals you can accomplish before the summer.
yeah.
So this author, Sarah Landrum, she from Career Builder, she had put together these 15 things. Some of them, we'll go through them pretty quick, but some of them I agreed with. Some of them I kind of scratched my head. But do you want to run
kick
through
it off.
them quick?
I put a big check mark next to this one. Communicate better. We could all use a little boost in the communication department sometimes. Everyone communicates differently. But to improve your communication skills at work, try one of these tactics. After a meeting, send an email with action items. Or maybe you just send a note saying, hey, I enjoyed our meeting. Thanks for being able to join us today. Although, as you and I know, meetings are huge time wasters. That short circuits that tip. Talk in person whenever possible. I practically could have highlighted that one. It almost is strange that we have to actually reinforce this today.
But I was going to say, I thought this was an odd one to put down as a goal to accomplish.
Look at how everything's done. Tap, tap, click, click,
Yeah.
click, factory. We're all sitting in
Okay.
place. So I thought talking to whenever possible is great.
So
The
that
last one that she talks about is have a plan for conflict resolution.
I don't like the way that makes me feel.
You know, I think that's very difficult if you're in a company that's personality driven. So I wasn't sure about that.
Well, and relationships too, personal relationships, I guess. I thought 1 and 2 were related. So number 2 was respond in a more timely manner.
I agree with you.
So in other words, a lot of us will open up an email and you'll read it and then you'll say, I'll answer it later.
Yeah.
We had a good friend at Volkswagen that immediately, as soon as he got the email, he answered it, which was great. But then he answered and he was done. And I remember you tried to do that
if there
yourself.
was more than one paragraph to the email, you only got the answer to the first question.
And I had a woman that worked for me at Subaru, which used to, I would go nuts because she was so unlike me in this regard. Every Monday morning, the first thing she did is she went to her inbox and she deleted everything.
I loved her.
And she started the
You're
week.
talking about Holly, aren't you? Yeah, Holly.
And she started the week, and I'm like, what do you do? And she said, if it's that important, they'll get in touch
send
with me
again.
again. And I'm like, oh my God, Holly, what are you going to lose? She's like,
Apparently lost nothing.
nothing.
Right?
So that one was about responding more in a timely manner. Was number 3.
This one, this was a hard one for me. Think about thought leadership. When you just read that, before you read what she talked about, what did you think of that?
Well, it's the only one that I put a side note in when we were trying to decide whether we were bringing the focus group back or not. I was out to dinner with some friends that have known me. We got on the topic of politics, and I was giving my opinion of what was happening on both sides, the Democrats and the Republicans. And Nancy said to me, she said, "How come you haven't done a blog to get your opinion out?" And she said, you should do a blog and just. Right, and I thought of doing that. Mary Seaton from Greensboro used to say the same thing to me. She said you should do a blog. I think I was more afraid though of doing something like that in that you open yourself up for a lot of aggravation and criticism. I'm never going to change your mind. In other words, if you feel some way about something, what I have to say about it's not going to necessarily change your mind. So I thought sometimes happens on Facebook. Right, you can argue with somebody on Facebook until you're blue in the face. It's not going to change their mind. You won't change.
It's very
theirs.
different on Facebook because they're not technically. You're not really arguing with someone, are you? You're just posting and posting and.
Right, but if you went back and forth and said, I think I'm all for Bernie Sanders, and then somebody's
You're
like, I'm all for.
Not on that.
Yeah.
Medium. No, you're not going to change the perception there.
But what did you think of this?
Well, I thought what you thought at first, and then I reread it and I realized that what she's talking about is. Something that I don't think everybody can do with ease. She said basically she wants you to become a thought leader in your category.
Right.
That doesn't really work for every career.
No.
I mean, if you're a top creative director or you're a media strategist, okay, that's great. But if you are working in retail, what's your blog going to tell someone in retail that they don't even know? I mean, so that was a nice little thing to do if you're in that kind of a career to set yourself off.
Yeah. So what was number 4?
This is a no-brainer to me. This one is so simple. Have a lunch with a colleague you don't know. Yeah, you're working with a group of people. Why not have lunch with someone you don't really know that well at the company? I just think that's not a bad idea.
I got enough friends. I don't need to do that.
I somehow knew you were going to say that.
Number 5 was create a personal website. I skimmed over that because I thought, you know what, that's one of those build it and they will come. I know a lot of people that spend a lot of time building websites. If nobody goes to them or knows they're there, they're just there.
Well, I skimmed over the next one. I've always been my own boss. So this one was more of I kind of just smirked. Ask your boss for more responsibility. Who in their right mind is going to walk into someone's office and say, "Give me more"?
I had a couple people that did that.
Really? Mm-hmm. Not the guy that used to make with short change 23 cents in his check.
No, they were the ones who wanted to let you know that they were very smart and that they were done and they were
moving.
Yeah, they want to be the next president of the company. So
I'd
always give them some bullshit assignment.
Big yes on the next one, by the way.
Which is the next one?
Get more sleep. This, I cannot.
You're good with that, not me.
You get 7 or 8 hours. Really try to do it because you're just a better person and you're a better worker and you're just more productive. It's just better.
Number 8 makes sense for me, I thought, because it's more of a weight issue, but it was skip the cocktails. And they did it here on the concept of, they said a glass of wine is fun now and then, but they were concerned about people that might be drinking and driving, which I thought was a disconnect. I thought it was more of just keeping yourself clear and your head clear, and you don't need to.
That's, your takeaway was exactly. By the way, Tim and I read these separately. separately and come up with our own interpretations. And that's funny because I thought to myself, this is not what I thought.
Yeah, that didn't make sense. That drunk driving's on the rise. It's like that's
okay. One of my
nothing to do with it.
favorites on the list is this next one.
Well, yeah.
Organize your desk. You know me. I am not a clutter freak. I am purge, purge, purge. If I buy 2 shirts, 3 have to leave the apartment. If I buy a pencil, 2 have to go. You can't. Less is more. So to me, I could actually live in a hotel room because that you come into clean surfaces. You just set your laptop up, open it up, put your book over there, you're done. So clean your desk. And I think it cleans your thoughts too.
Number 10.
So clearly you don't agree with me.
No, I agree with you, but it's you New Yorkers have to because you're in tight spaces. I live in Philly, I got more room for clutter. So that's what happens. I think if you live in a smaller
I would like
space,
to recommend to you the show Hoarders Buried
No,
Alive.
I'm not watching Hoarders because I'm not that way. I'm not saving
wait.
old cat cans. It's not Grey Gardens down where I live, but
Okay, so I had that on the TV the other day, and I was
Grey Gardens?
No, which is, by the way, a must-see
Hoarders.
movie. Grey Gardens, it's fantastic. So
the original documentary,
original
not the
Mizell
thing with-
documentary, the
yeah.
Grey Gardens, which I introduced Tim to, and you were glued to that TV set.
Yeah.
Hour and a half is the documentary. So I'm doing something in the kitchen, and I hear this Hoarders is on, and I hear the woman who is hired as the psychiatrist to come in and help the hoarder. And the camera must be on. She's on a garbage pile that goes up to a ceiling, and you hear her say through a mask, she goes, I have to be let out of the residence now before I vomit.
See, I don't understand why you would watch
How do
that
people
show.
get that bad?
Well, I blame the family because it's like these people that are 10,000 pounds that are eating 6 Big
That's
Macs.
another
a day.
show. My 600
Don't bring them the
Pound Life.
food. If you can't get out of bed and walk, don't bring the people the
All
food.
right, so have you seen My 600 Pound Life?
I turned it on. I couldn't believe it because the woman was like, I can't get out of bed. I thought, don't stuff her with food. They had some fiesta party. They brought in tacos and
You
all
saw
this.
the same one I
Yeah.
did? And then she drives to Houston
She
and
gained
they bought
another
her
100 pounds.
And they bought her tacos at a Del Taco.
And I thought, you know what? You
I
can't
felt
get out
bad
of
for the
bed.
car. I
Well,
felt really bad.
I looked
for the
at it
car.
and I thought,
Did
you know,
you
this
watch
is the
that car?
family's problem.
Are cars rated to carry that? Is a tire like they showed the camera crews following her? She's driving down the highway.
You got to move somebody like that in a piano case.
That was in the Guinness Book of World Records.
Was it?
The biggest guy in the world was buried in a piano case.
No, you got to get a piano mover to take some of these people around. All right, we got off track. Number 10, become a mentor.
You don't want a mentee?
That's a
No
lot of
mentee,
time.
mentor. I'm a mentor.
That goes with being friendly, being friends.
Okay, you got enough
11,
of them, right?
You got enough of them. I don't need to mentor.
Become a public speaker. I think we're doing a good job with that right now. Although, are you a Toastmaster?
No, but I have a good friend that is, and she's great
Is
at
there
it.
a skill with Toastmasters?
Oh, yeah.
You have to get the room going. And
It would be another good sponsor for us to do, and you and I
Toastmasters?
and then you and I can go to a party, and we can go to one of the dinners and get up, and they just give you a topic last minute, and you got to get to pontificate about it. Which
This is the great thing about the focus group. This is all business.
Well, it'd be good for you, John, because you like to talk. You're like my father.
I met
When
your
I say you
dad,
talk the-
and
talk
your
the
dad
horns
and
off a
I
goat.
talk the horns off a goat. Yeah.
Number 12 was reconnect with a former colleague. I think that's a good one.
You know why that's a really great one, especially if you're at different companies or in your different jobs. It's just fun to get caught up, and it's like
Catch
time
up.
to go by.
It's number 13.
Okay.
Another one for you. Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
This, I do admit I have a problem with, and I'll tell you why. So it's called Clean Up Your Files. And basically, she talks about how since everything we do, we download it, we get articles, we get files, they just sit on your hard drive. Well, guess what? Storage is cheap, right? You could buy a little box this big that holds like movie, everything. So cleaning your files up, it ends up being an enormous task.
You were complaining about that the other day with our Dropbox.
Our Dropbox is a mess. It's not our fault, really.
Number 14, I had you in the side
I
note
love
here.
this one,
So it
too.
was learn a new skill, and I know you've been doing animation, but it said learn a new skill so you can add it to your resume or whatever, or if it's something you wanted to learn. I don't know what new skill I want to learn. I still want to learn to play the piano. I don't know if that's a skill.
That I would call an impossibility. I do want to encourage you to try,
Why
but
is that an impossibility?
because of your age, the kids start this thing with the practice, and well,
Oh, but you being a Disney animator is you're not too old for that, Grandpa?
It's timeless and ageless. It's a career that is ageless. They judge you on your work, not on
Number
your age.
15.
I had a
wanna
story
fight with
about
you
this
on it.
for you, but no. If you want the piano, okay.
You just said I was too old.
Well, you're not going to learn it. Come on. It's like Bob bought a piano. He bought an electric piano and a book one day, and I come home and he has it all set up, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" Because I'm learning piano. I'm like, "You are not learning piano."
And you're learning to make a little dog walk
But
across
I'm succeeding. I'm doing dog walk now. Yeah, quadruped they call it. Okay.
What's the last
The
one?
last one was join a team, and the team they're referring to is a sporting team. So I thought you'd get a kick out of this. Like a volleyball team, dodgeball. You row. You used to be on a rowing team.
When my legs were good.
When you're like, well, that's a hard sport, and it beats you up. I was invited to join a pro cycling club here in New York.
Are you going?
I can.
And I've told you to do it before. How come?
Time commitment.
Time commitment.
Oh, it's many hours a week.
I thought it was just you meet at a certain time, you go for a ride.
No, it's they compete.
Oh,
and
okay.
so it was.
I think that'd be good for you, though. I think you should compete.
You know what? If I had not decided last year to pursue the 18-month coursework in animation, I might have considered this, but I think I'm having more fun with that. And I love my cycling, and I think that would change cycling for me a little bit, the competing thing.
Yeah, well, it definitely would.
So
Definitely would.
that was Shop Talk. We hope you got something out of it.
Learned
What
a
you
lot.
learned is that Tim wants to learn piano. If you can distill it down to the very
I
smallest,
want to learn piano, and I'm old. That's what I learned.
And nature likes threes. Was there a third thing you learned?
Clean. Got to
Stay-
clean my files. I'm a hoarder.
Clean. Okay, there now I feel better. See, 2 doesn't work. 3 feels better.
All right.
Hey, it's the Focus Group with myself, John Nash, and Tim Bennett. We are going to come back after a quick break, and when we return, we are going to be welcoming one of our favorite people, author Aaron McHugh, who has now published a new book called Political Suicide. We'll do the subtitle when she's back on with us on camera. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Focus Group is brought to you by the Volkswagen Golf Sport Wagon. Turbo up front, wagon in the back. Visit VW.com to learn more.
You're listening to The Focus Group
I said to my girlfriend just the other day, monsters are interesting, I said.
with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
And I'll bet you meet a lot of interesting people, too.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Just in time for the political season, I'm Tim Bennett here with my good friend and co-host John Nash, where we're business show where we talk. We're all business except when we're not. John wants me to get that in, make sure we
paid for that.
We paid for it.
Paid for that line.
And we have joining us a good friend of ours here at the Focus Group, Erin McHugh, who's actually a working author, and she's got her latest book out just in time for the political season, which is.
A working author.
She's a working author.
Working author.
Political
Sometimes I work,
suicide,
sometimes I don't.
missteps, peccadillos, bad calls, backroom hijinks, sordid past, rotten breaks, and just plain dumb mistakes in the annals of American politics. Who came up with the title?
You forget that I too was an advertising chick.
You're an
So I was a copywriter. Who else?
Before we get into your book, you were
That's what
listening.
makes you a writer.
You were
You write
listening.
the title, you write the subtitle, then you write the book.
You were listening to the show earlier, and you sat down and said to John, you knew about the duckling thing, or
Yes.
Snake Man for ducklings. Yeah,
So she knew all about it?
All about the.
So I'm the only one who.
But she
Right,
also.
but I did point out that I'm a girl.
But to make you feel better, yeah, she said, "But I'm a girl," and I'm like, "Okay."
So Aaron, tell us a little bit about your book and how it came about. And
Well, we knew you've got to start a book longer away than a lot of people think. So a couple of years ago, I started to think, here comes 2016. Who knew what was
Oh,
going to
yeah.
happen?
Ooh.
Who even would have a clue? And I thought, what we're going to need is a book that is a little bit of a respite from whatever's going on. And it really crosses the aisles. I'll tell you, it's Democrats, it's Republicans, who know that, but they're all crazy. Same as it ever was a little bit. And so I wanted to have a book that people could pick up who were interested in history, but maybe wanted to get away a little bit from what was happening, in the main arena. But of course, at that point in 2014, we could not even have begun to have foreseen what's going on.
this was dumb luck, a little
This
bit.
was dumb luck a little bit.
Wow.
Or smart luck, maybe.
Smart. Well, it's funny because when you said, "Oh, you're going to love it," and I do, and stories are great. And what I like about your writing, it's John calls them digestible books because you can pick it up and open
Better
to
than
one.
you did just
Do you think
You pick 'em up.
Do you think this is New York to L.A.?
And in between?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. you
So
can pick
that's
it up
what I
and
mean
read.
when I say digest. I mean, you could pick this up and you're like, okay, I'm going to read this on my flight to San Fran, LA.
Oh, I thought you meant as far as people interested in it.
Oh,
But
no,
yes,
I
you
think you
could.
could-
Yeah,
I
I think you could. New York to LA.
You could open
on a
one of
slow
our
plane.
favorite books that we recommended here in the focus group was One Good Deed, and that was when you did one good deed every day,
Right.
And
Every year.
right. And what was great about that, it was one of those books you could pick it up, you could read 10 pages, you could read 50 pages, you could read 1 page.
That's right.
And that's what I love about this. So, John, what are you opening up to?
We'll get
Is
to
that
that.
one of your
We'll get
faves?
to that story in a minute. Yeah, Aaron had suggested some of the chapters of the book, and I did that one.
thought you would like
and yes, and yes, and yes.
How did you find the information? Because in reading some of the stories, and you're going to share a couple of the crazier ones with us.
You know,
how did
you have to
find-
start going. You just have to start on the internet, figuring out, finding, using different keywords. You know, crazy politicians, people who went to jail, things like that. And then you've got to dig deeper, of course, because who can really, trust whatever Google says,
Right.
Wikipedia. And so then you have to dig deeper. And as you do, of course, every time you find the second source, the third source, the fifth source, there's always another little bit of little minuscule iota of something that you hadn't seen in source number 2 or 3. So that's what makes it fun, of course.
You know, Aaron, last time you joined us on our other show, we talked about how it's probably not the case that politics has gotten worse or there's less civility. You actually pointed out, because you were working on the book then,
Right.
about someone who got caned.
Right on the floor,
whacked
right.
with a walking stick.
More than one. The duels and the canings and the beating people
Like,
up on
there's
the
duels
Right on the floor?
right on the floor of the Senate. I know, it's unbelievable.
So this is
You know,
not
they get
what
censured.
we're seeing now.
Punished.
What censured?
Right.
What we're seeing now is not really unusual.
No, I
Or is
really
it
do
unusual
feel
for
it's the
modern
same
era?
as it ever was. So whether that makes you feel better or worse, that's up for debate, I suppose.
But is it the 24-hour news cycle that's created this? Because if
Absolutely.
you got caned in the 1800s, right, if you had whacked somebody,
Mm-hmm.
by the time that got out from there to get to somebody
So the next
in
person got
Chicago.
in a duel or whatever. Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't know. And what's interesting about saying that is that you find that a lot of people in this book will they'll be just keep on forever, and because the word doesn't get out so much, and they do something wrong, and then they sort of get a second chance and a 10th chance, and and not everybody knows about the fourth and
Politicians
fifth
are
thing
like
they
cats.
did.
They have more
There's
than
a little
9
bit like
lives.
cats, right? But you'll find that when you read through now and again, you'll see, well, they then left North Carolina and went to Texas, where no one knew them. They went to California, where
Right.
the gold rush was happening, and where
No one knew 'em.
and no one knew them, and they were got in and started in the state convention or something like that. Became one man became the captain of the Navy in Texas or something like that.
Now, is that the Robert Potter
this
story?
one.
Is
Right,
that the one
right,
you
yeah,
like, John?
Robert Potter
So
one.
tell us about
The
him.
secretary
What
of
was?
the Texas Navy. I
Right.
didn't know Texas had a Navy.
Well, it's like a joke, right?
So what's his name? Robert Potter.
Robert Potter, he was from North Carolina and had
1800s.
Yep, in the
what does it-
1800s. And that again, that's what I want to point out most about the book is this is not about Chris Christie and Donald Trump and people whose
Sarah
fortunes-
Palin.
I go Sarah Palin, whose fortunes may change time and time
Right.
again by the time it's Christmas. This is from the 1700s on.
Yeah.
So it's sort of interesting to see again the things that repeat themselves.
So tell
the
us about
behavior, things.
Robert
Mr. Potter.
What he's most known for.
Well, he potterizing, and I'm going to tell you what potterizing is.
this.
He was a senator in the 1800s from North Carolina, and I began to think maybe he had an STD of some sort, because
An
he was
STD?
because he was crazy. He was only about 32, and he was a young congressman, and hardworking, up and coming, and seemed well liked. But he got it in his head that his wife was cheating on him, and I guess he wasn't really sure who. So just to make to be safe,
Cover all the bases.
one day in one afternoon, he castrated 2 different people.
A minister.
A minister who was a different an older man and a distant relative, and a young teenager who was also a distant relative on the other side of the family. And with the minister, he just saw coming by in a wagon and pulled him off and hogtied him and gave him the cut of his life.
In the street?
Right. Well, the dirt road, whatever it is, yes.
But as I read this, did he think the minister was sleeping with his wife?
Yes.
Yeah.
As well as the teenage boyfriend.
Couldn't decide
Maybe
which
boyfriend.
was really committing the
Right.
crime.
Or both.
but-
Or
Yeah,
both. Who
yeah.
knows? And we don't, of course, we'll never know. But we know
So if
that
you get
he did
cast-
lose, he lost his job.
So if he get castrated, that's known as
Yes, around the South, there's still, sort of a local thing that people call
Potterized.
potterizing.
And he paid a $3,000 fine and spent 6 months in prison
Right.
for this for basically.
And then went to Texas and became head of the Navy.
Head of the Navy in Texas. Yeah. Now my other one.
well, that seems to be a theme here, right? They all seem to go away.
They seem to, a lot
They're
of them
allowed
go
to get away or go
Right.
away.
And again, that's, I think so often of Jack Kennedy.
Right.
If it had been 10, 20 years later, all the womanizing and especially, I think in his life, would have been out there. It wouldn't have been the old boys network of just a few Helen Thomas and the guys and how they protected him. You can't get away with that kind of stuff anymore.
Let's see if you picked the same one I did, John. Where are you picking one now?
Well, I'm tapping this name.
He's tapping.
Is it Murray Hall?
Hall.
Yeah. Tell us about Murray Hall.
Murray Hall.
I was, by the way, the way you wrote this, we're talking to author Erin McEwen. Her book is Political Suicide. Missteps, peccadillos, bad calls, backroom hijinks, sordid past, rotten breaks, and just plain dumb mistakes in the annals of American politics.
And
So one of the chapters is on a man called Murray Hall.
who started out as Mary Anderson from Scotland. Apparently, she had some dead brother and took his clothes on the ship on her trip to emigrate to America and put the clothes on, and that was it. Then from then on in, by the time she got to the other side, to Ellis Island, she was Murray Hall. And she lived her life as a man and became, which was a sort of passing then.
So this was 1840 to 1901.
That's right.
Okay.
Died in 1901, and became very involved with Tammany Hall. And you think of a lot of the people who are in Tammany Hall as people, the same kind of guys who are head of a gang in the mafia, right? You've just got your own crew. You're a made man. And you've got your own little crew. A lot of these Tammany Hall people were not necessarily elected officials, but they were on the neighborhood council and things like that, as was Murray Hall.
Is that a New York thing?
Tammany Hall. I was going to
Yes.
ask you about Tammany
Yes,
Hall.
and
So what is that?
Tammany Hall was an actual place. It's now down. It's around near Union Square for those of you who live in New York, and it became sort of the center of very, very corrupt New York politicking. And so there was a lot of buying
Trump
of
Tower
votes.
now.
Pardon me?
Like Trump Tower now.
Like Trump
But so much so now, Aaron, that when someone refers to Tammany Hall,
Right, you know what they mean.
actually it's really not even the place anymore. They're referring to this body of corruption.
That's
or just
correct.
the basic, yeah, okay.
That's correct. So very corrupt stuff, and there were many, many people were involved in this. And Murray Hall would have been maybe one of the bottom rungs of the ladder. But jobs like Murray Hall's were like this: you would go to get to people, say if there was a Stuytown, a big, which is here in New York, a giant apartment complex, and you would go door to door, and you would ask, is your mother sick? Do you need help getting to the voting? And they'd pay them off. So it'd be these people who would just pay off people for a vote, or favors, just favor currying all the way along. This was a lifetime of work.
But so Murray Hall
Right, Murray Hall
was actually leaned on by those folks and counted on as a political force
Right.
to literally get out the vote.
Right, to get out the
they
vote,
knew
give them a
everybody.
little
They were
money,
the neighborhood,
do a little
right.
favor, stuff like that. Right, they all did their own neighborhood. So he suddenly showed up with a wife and a daughter that was a stepdaughter. And, no one sort of knew him, but he was on the scene for 20 or 30 years.
Yeah.
And no one knew that he wore suits a little too big and he had a little feminine voice. But no one, until the day they ran an obit in the New York Times in 1901, knew that he died of breast cancer. And that's what gave it away.
And was buried in a dress.
Buried in the first dress he had worn in like 50
And the
years.
stepdaughter was practically in shock.
Yes.
Because she always thought it was dad.
Do you think the mother knew?
Right.
Do you think the wife knew?
The wife evidently knew, but the daughter
were they
never knew.
lesbians?
You have to imagine that they were lesbians.
He just didn't talk about it, I guess.
Because I think in the chapter you talk about how he was known as kind of a scoundrel, womanizer,
Yes.
always
A
chasing women.
womanizer. Right. Celia was not the first wife. So
When
don't
I was
even know where to start.
No, when I was reading,
It's always good when it's speechless.
no, because when I was reading this, it said that, as you mentioned, the clothes were big to kind of hide the womanly shape. That he talked in a very high-pitched voice.
The shoes too. There's
And
something about the
she had
Tiny
small
feet,
feet,
right?
so I had to have special made shoes. And I thought, I guess you just didn't talk about things then. I guess you
it's a
wouldn't. It
little
just
bit
was
like
polite
Queen,
company.
It's a little bit maybe like Queen Victoria. You know, when she outlawed being gay, she never outlawed lesbianism because she did not believe that could happen. She didn't believe it existed.
I didn't even know that happened.
Yeah.
This is news to me.
Right,
Really.
new
Oh,
news.
listen, laugh and learn here in the focus group.
It's always business.
We're all about
This is not.
business, except
Right.
when we're not. We got that moneymaker.
But,
She outlawed gay. I didn't know that.
but not,
Yes, yes,
but not
she
being a
outlawed-
lesbian.
But not being a lesbian.
Wow.
So I think I think that I don't think anybody it ever occurred to anybody that he was a woman.
It's, that one was.
It was sort of fascinating. I know.
There's a modern day one.
Which one did you?
Out of Dixon, Illinois, and which is where Ronald Reagan was born.
Right,
But
that's-
see,
Rita
I'm wondering who you-
Rita Crundwell.
Rita Crundwell.
And I read this, and I was just
okay.
shocked. Can you tell us about Rita
I have to say
Crundwell?
Rita's story.
1953 too. Is she still
She's
alive?
alive.
Yeah,
She's in
good
jail.
dot. And
This one I don't
This is
get.
my favorite, I think, in the
Is it?
book. Yes. Rita was from she was a small town girl, thought about going to college, but decided no. I mean, she was smart and she decided she wanted to stay in her hometown. And she got a job as the secretary for the mayor and then moved over into the secretary for the treasurer of the town. Now, it was the kind of town where Rita got paid a regular salary and a couple of other people, but the mayor makes $9,000 and he owns the Oldsmobile place in
Dealership,
town,
yeah.
right? So she did all right. This was started in 1980, and she, by the time in the 2000s, she was making $83,000 a year. A good, for a small town, good money.
Wow, yeah.
And she was the town treasurer. In 1983, evidently, she opened a second bank account, and the signator was Rita Crundwell. And so what she would do is take money from the account of the town account and just switch it over to the other bank account.
Rita.
It really couldn't have been simpler.
There's no hiding. Wait.
No, hiding. Here's Rita. She decided she wanted to own quarter horses, which is an expensive hobby.
Yeah.
So she bought one, and then she bought 20, and she had a big farm, and she got a tricked-out Airstream trailer.
Motorhome.
It was always the diamonds
But
and
no one knew.
no one thought a thing, and they knew her.
But meanwhile, they
For money. Meanwhile, they know her parents are like small-town farmers.
said the town couldn't afford police cars. The roads were full of potholes.
Falling apart. Rita was back in the office, with the typewriter, making up fake invoices like misspelling Illinois, things like that, it was like at $300,000, $500,000.
Yeah, they said she had won $500,000 to fix the sewer system. Or something.
But my favorite part is she was gone a lot of the time, like for weeks at a time. The
quarter horse
horse
conventions.
shows.
Showing the ponies.
But everybody in the town said, Rita might be gone a lot, but you know what is great about Rita? Because we can trust Rita. She will, every day that is not a vacation day that she's not here on the spot, she deducts from her pay. That's how reliable Rita is.
She's a team player.
She's a complete team. She's a hometown girl.
Hey.
So one time she goes off on one of her jaunts, and a temporary secretary or something finds the second bank account and thinks, oh, and goes right to the mayor, and he calls in the FBI, and within a few months they call Rita in. She says, hey, how can I help you? And they tell her, and she, admits everything, helps them get it all together, just goes along with the whole thing, and she is now in jail until 2030.
And how much she took?
They had
I thought it was
never-
gonna have a slightly different ending. I thought
Oh,
she was gonna
no.
So
somehow
she
help and have a-
They had never opened the
Said-
book. Not one person had opened the book in 30 years. Not one.
So the auditor should have been in trouble. But she stole $53 million.
Over the course.
$53 million over the time. And so now she's in jail for what, 20 years?
2030.
Not bad.
Really?
She had fun.
No, the townsfolk where people say, she has,
Hey, she's got 3 squares a day now.
right? And
Well,
so,
but I mean, she had one hell of a time. She's
I'm
like
not sure-
Madoff,
I'm not
right?
Sure how
She's
the
like-
hierarchy.
You're like Madoff. You had a great time.
except she had more friends than Madoff. All the people in town, like, she has suffered the shame and humiliation of this.
What kind of
we don't
horses
think
did
she
she
should go to
collect?
jail.
Quarter horses.
So I wonder.
I mean,
I wonder
it's-
if those metaphors translate into prison. I wonder if she's a show.
Well, those
pony.
metaphors all got
Is
sold.
she a
I'll
show
tell you that.
pony or is she a dray? Is she a workhorse?
I think she's someone's bitch. That'd be a tough gig. You get in the jail.
I am shocked
Oh, yeah.
that the
Prison.
town did not figure this out.
Never turned a page of. Isn't that wild?
So how old was she when she got sentenced?
She was about.
Well, she was born in
58, 60,
53.
yeah.
She was born in 53,
This
so
just
she's
happened in 2010, so it's one of the newest stories in the book.
Oh,
but I
all
couldn't
right. So
resist.
what, she's in her early 70s?
They're 60s now.
60s. Okay,
Yeah.
so all right. So now retirement's all set.
So she'll get out, what, another
Right.
7 years?
Retirement's all
Right?
set.
She gets out another.
30.
2030. Yeah,
15 years.
she's going to be. She'll die in prison.
You think? She'll live a
Yes,
while.
unless she's. Well, you never know. Maybe the food's so
Jean
good.
Harris
She's gonna,
looked pretty good when she got out.
Yeah.
they have good medical.
Leona Helmsley, did she make it out? Leona.
And I'm sure she's not in
Harris?
like a
Yes, but she's dead
hardcore.
now.
She's probably in like white collar kind of prison.
Oh, I didn't
know
think
what they
about
have
that. So
in
she's
Illinois.
not in Orange is the New Black. She's not doing that sort of prison.
No,
where,
that's
come
what
here,
I mean.
baby. Yeah.
No, they're
Have the
people-
Snicker bar and then you're mine.
Taking a plastic knife and making a shank out of it,
Right.
and whatever else.
She's in Danbury with Teresa Giudice.
Probably
from
doing
Real
people's
Housewives.
taxes.
setting up croquet hoops.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
doing
Croquet today or basketball?
Knitting a poncho with Martha.
She's doing taxes for everybody, all the prisoners.
Here's how to make brownies in the microwave here at the prison.
Hey, we're talking to Erin McHugh, who is the author of the book we've been discussing, Political Suicide. So she was one of your favorite.
I just couldn't believe she got away with it, and everybody was so trustful.
I just love the way, by the way, when I started reading the book, because you had sent me an early draft of the PDF, I just liked the way you broke it into death. It's almost like death and taxes.
Taxes.
Like
Taxes and
then there's
embezzling.
money and finance, there's slavery, bigotry and racism, conspiracy, bribery, no guts. It's basically like a laundry list of the stuff.
It seemed more fun to do it that way than chronologically.
And the way you write, it's very conversational, just like you are when you join us here,
it's
which we love.
it's
And
fun.
before we run out of time, I wanted to say, so this is new out now, so you can get this where all good books are sold. You have another one coming out, like my teacher always said. Is this out yet?
Correct. Yes, it's also just out. Both are just about a couple of weeks.
So this is about wisdom of things. Where tell us about what.
Well,
Like
it's
My
a little
Teacher
bit of
Always Said.
any of you remember like my mother always said, and then we had like my father always said. Now it's like my teacher always said.
Here's
So-
what I love about Aaron's books.
No, but here's what.
Said this before. One Good Deed was one of our favorite
Yep.
books. 365 good deeds you did in a year. But I always say you could open this book up to anything and find something.
Do you
So
do?
I read-
you got?
Can I say something before you say that? Did you do this on purpose that you could? Because these are great gifts, right? So, like my mother always said, you give it Mother's Day. Like my father always said, you can give it Father's Day. You can give this at the end of the year to your teacher. Yeah, one a month, May, June.
This is
Right. That's
perfect
true too.
service to put an apple on top.
So what? I'm sorry,
right.
John. What did you pull
I just
up?
randomly, I thought, I bet I could open any page and find something that I'm going to laugh at and agree with. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect.
That sounds perfect for you.
And it's from Coach Tim. It is for me, huh?
Here's one I thought was even better for you. I was only in kindergarten. And my teacher was already saying, "Your mouth is like diarrhea, just runs." I can't believe a teacher would say that to a kindergartner.
Nowadays, I'm not sure they do.
I like the kid who said to the teacher, "Hey, Mr. T, you got a black eye?" And the teacher says, "Yeah." He said, "Where'd you get that?" He said, "Never mind." He said, "No, really, where'd you get that?" He said, "You want one too?" Or don't ask again.
So that's another one of these. So like my teacher always said,
This is a fun one.
and I liked like my
Don't
mother
look at
always
me
said.
in that tone of voice.
Oh, so we've all heard
Don't
that.
look at me in that tone of
Yep.
voice.
And do you have so you got these out? Do you have anything else you're working on now?
I have we just finished a book called Second Chances, and it is
We were talking about this.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit before. It is stories from people, large and small, about having a second chance in life to go back and have a do-over. You know,
See,
either
that's okay.
either have a do-over or be able to make the best of a bad situation. I had a wonderful, wonderful story from somebody I know and work with, and I'm also a bookseller. And I had no idea this had happened to her. She had lost her house in a fire. And she had to go live with her husband had to go live with his mother for a while. She and her kids went to live with a friend in her son's bedroom so they didn't have to go to a shelter. And then she said, then I realized that no one in my family died. And then I realized the next day the sun came up, and the day after that the sun came up, And the next day the sun came up again. And I realized it was all going to be all right. I thought, wow.
So that's not a do-over, though.
But you make the best of a bad situation. So you have a second
So that's
chance
how
to
you're
get together.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. I gave you one that I don't know if I want to
Loved.
tell.
Hell.
Well, I didn't know if I wanted to because I know.
Well,
I know some.
hold you to it.
Well, I know some of
You
them.
gotta hold
I don't
you
know.
to it.
Wait,
Well, I know the
with the
people.
glass. I don't know if I want to tell.
Well, only because
Well.
I haven't. Anyway, so there was a lot of us had gone to weddings, or at least me.
This is a good story.
Had gone to weddings in our 20s and maybe didn't send a gift like you should have.
I did that.
And I still to this day have guilt about it because one of the people keeps in regular contact with me, and I always have. I get tense and think, oh my God, do they think I didn't give them a wedding gift 25 years ago? So I said when you told me about the book, I said, here's what my second chance is going to be. I'm going to give she and her husband a gift certificate to a great restaurant around their anniversary time with a card. But I'm still trying to figure out if I should acknowledge I didn't give you a gift, so here's your
They'll
gift.
wonder why, wouldn't they? If they gave you more than $10.
You know, at this point in time,
Yeah.
I think if you said, hey, you know, you've been a great friend, and I always.
But I feel like it's a 12-step program.
No, I think you could. I think she'd laugh and smile and be like, "Oh, you know what? Tim didn't send me a gift."
And they might have been
He had
carrying that all
he had
these
the
years.
prime rib.
You know, and you know where I got my dad and mom when they got married, my dad had an uncle that did not give a gift. It was for more of anger. There was more of a family argument, and I remember being there 30 years later when the uncle gave a gift to my mom and dad, which I thought was a little odd, but I guess for him it was.
I don't think so. I have
Cathartic or
a story too about somebody saying, they had not written a
Oh, this you told us this.
a condolence note to somebody who had lost a
good
sibling.
friend,
Yeah, and years went by, and they mentioned it to another friend, and that friend said, mutual friend said, "It's never too late." Which is, and it's never too late. Really, is just so true about everything. And so, they wrote the note, and things were, the friendship improved immediately.
I never know what to do in those situations. I'm not good in those situations.
Well, no one's good in those
Well, we're
situations.
writing
It's
a
like
condolence
people who
note.
say,
Yeah, like
people say I don't do hospitals.
We
Who
learned.
wants to go?
Yeah, no. We learned that a neighbor's son had sadly passed away from a drug overdose, and this is at our house upstate. And they're great people, and no one wants to lose a son or a daughter, especially to something like that. And I wrote 3 sentences, and if I'm not lying if I told you it took an hour to figure out
sure.
what those 3 sentences were.
Yeah, of course.
And then I read it and read it and read it, and then I put. Their mailbox is right next to ours, but I mailed it anyway because that's
what you do.
I think that's the appropriate thing.
Right.
It doesn't. The truth is, it didn't matter what you said, and you knew that even as you were doing it.
Yes, because it was truly the thought that counted.
That's
That we
right.
acknowledged the passing and that had happened. So
Anyway, back to Tim wanted to say to these people, congratulations on all your years of happiness.
Here's the happiness because they're
Which I
still
think is
together.
Great.
and it was
So-
good prime rib.
It was good prime rib.
prime rib.
And I do remember the one reason why this sticks out. There's a couple of them, but the reason they're stuck out was we had a really good time at the wedding. It was up in Connecticut on the ocean, and we
Rare
all
to have a really fun wedding, right?
we drank way too much, and we were on the microphone. I mean, to this day, still Susie was with me, my friend Susie and Jay, and I thought, my God, if they watch that now, we were probably such fools.
We're so
You know,
glad
you
they
grab
didn't
the microphone.
videotape
You
things
almost
then.
wish that we had the camera phones back then. I mean, there were so few ways to document this.
Yeah.
Right.
Back in the horse and carriage days. All right, so we have been talking to none other than our very, very good friend here on the focus group, Erin McHugh. Her new book's out. It's called Political Suicide. Also, another book, which is a surprise for us, which we love, is Like My Teacher Always Said, which complements Like My Father Always Said, Like My Mother Always Said.
That's right.
We should do like Tim and John always said. Both pages in full color.
Right. Why not?
Big hit in North Korea. 2 pages are being passed
Tim and John
around.
looking at cigarettes.
Tim and John looking at the Navy. Tim and John looking at the
Next.
glorious leader.
Next.
All right, so Erin, thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
John Nash with Tim Bennett. We are going to take a very quick break, and when we return, we're going to do a little bit of Ask Tim and John, and then we're going to wrap up the show, so stay with us.
The Focus Group is brought to you by the newly redesigned Volkswagen Passat, where family happens. Visit VW.com to learn more.
It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen,
It's not a lie if you believe it.
laugh,
We had a little fun, because it's a very long day, you know.
and learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the Focus Group with Tim Bennett
All right, let's go already.
and John Nash.
Pucker up, Buttercup.
With a focus on career, the consumer culture, and marketing from an LGBT point of view. We're all business, except when we're not.
You paid for that line, you're going to say it. Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, John Nash. You've joined the Focus Group, and be sure to follow along with us at focusgroupradio.com. You can listen to the show there at any time. New shows launch every Saturday. We want to keep you on schedule, John. So we have a new segment that our listeners have provided to us called Ask Tim and John. So without further, it's if you give us a call at 914-362-8747, which is 914-FOCUS-GR. You can leave a message there. Let us know your name, and if we use your question on air, we'll get you a pair of our famous Focus Group Radio socks.
Yeah, you could ask a comment, or you could say, "Hey, Tim and John, I love you. We don't want to hear you hate us."
Well, you might get some of that, but you got it. But we need the questions, right? So the segment works. This was from the listeners.
We have fun music imaging that goes with it, and it always makes me feel like Gene Rayburn, Hollywood Squares.
It's time for
Charles
Ask
Nelson
Tim
Riley.
and
He's up on the
John.
third
And
floor.
Call
Yeah.
914-FOCUS-GR and ask Tim and John anything you want. If your question gets
We might need to
selected and
change
used
that.
on air, you'll be sporting a pair of the famous Focus Group socks.
that's
To
what I
make it
wanna-
a little
we
fun,
gotta figure
Tim
out
and
if
John will
we're
have
okay
no
with it. We
idea
haven't let
what
them
question will be thrown at them. So be nice. Again, that number is 914-FOCUS-GR, 914-362-8747.
And that's the voice of the Focus Group,
So-
Drew Birdsey.
So our producer will check the
Checks the messages, and we're not going to be able to see this
Give
until
me
we're here.
questions for John, and then John questions for me. So again, we'd like you to call and participate, since it was the idea of the listeners. So did somebody submit a question? You have a question
Yes,
for me?
and it's a simple one, very simple one. Because it's reductive, you're going to have to think of this. Maybe not too much. Worst business moment of your career.
Worst business moment.
Yeah, since I didn't ask the question, but the shading way, I suppose, would be if someone said to me, "What's your worst?" Would it be? I don't think it's something you did, but maybe it's a situation that you found yourself in that you had to get out of.
Yeah, there's a number that come to mind. Some of them are not really. So I'll do two quick ones, and they were bad. It was a bad business moment because of the circumstance. So we, as director of advertising and marketing, I was also responsible for sponsorships and promotions, and we had a racing team, a rally racing team.
Oh boy!
And I was at the
that's a bad
I was at the
moment.
Chateau Marmont in L.A. talking with Eileen Chaikin about the L Word. About writing
Showtime
Subaru,
show.
right? About writing Subaru into the script of the L Word, and we're there, and Halle Berry's in the having lunch, and we're all hanging out, having a good time. And I keep getting this flash on my phone, so I thought I'd better take it, because my deal with people at work was, don't ever call me unless somebody died.
Emergency, yeah.
Well, this rally team we had brought in, world renowned from England, Great Britain, was racing in Seattle, and freak accident, took off. Just hit like a tree stump, and both people dead immediately on impact. And
The key there is rally racing relies on navigator driver,
Right.
and the driver the driver is not almost. The driver is listening to what the navigator's saying.
Yep.
They make all changes in course.
this
correction.
car had not gone a quarter of a mile,
It just hit us.
and just freak accident. The car didn't even look like it was in an accident, but the way they hit snapped their necks, and they were both dead on the scene. And I had a couple of, I don't say young kids, but they were in their early 20s, first jobs out of college, and they called me and said, "We don't know what to do. We've got to get these bodies back to England." And so talk about slapping in the face. So it was a really rough day, because I ended up leaving there, spending a lot of time, I did call, and my boss told me, the president of the company, don't ever call me unless somebody died. So I called him at his house.
Talking about, yeah.
I called him at his house, and he said, "Do whatever you can. Make sure British Airways can get the bodies to England, and whatever it costs, we'll do it." And da 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 da. It was a freaky thing because you don't think of it. The very next week, we had something in the Gorge Games, and somebody died in a mountain biking accident, and then someone died again in another event, all within like 2 weeks.
You guys were sponsoring everybody.
Yeah, and we were sponsoring all these events, and then finally it was just like, man, this is the creepiest thing. And I just remember it being a very odd time for me, and I
remember you calling, and I'm like, you're not going to believe what happened, and I was shocked.
So that would be for me one of the worst.
Hard to navigate that
days.
one. Yeah.
For me personally, of something that happened, I would say I was set up, and I said I would never do this again in corporate America. I was set up by my boss, I'll call him, to go into a meeting and fight for a particular thing. And I got your back. And
we all know about the "I got your back" guy.
So I went in there
until they don't have your back.
I went in there in front of the people from, at the time, General Motors and the Japanese company, and I brought up this issue that was pretty sensitive, and I laid out all the terms, and then I'm looking at him and his boss and the president of the company of the Americans, and they all didn't say a thing, and I got chewed out like you can't believe from the Japanese management, deservedly so, but I was told, go in there, you bring it up, and we'll back you up. And I still remember driving home, and my boss calls me and goes, "Attaboy, attaboy." And I said, "What do you mean, attaboy?" He said, "You know, you really took that tongue lashing." And I said to him, I will never, ever do that again. You set me up. They're going to think that I did this. Yeah. And it was just really, I lost all kinds of faith in them, and I really liked those guys. And I thought, you know what,
I just shrugged. I didn't mean to shrug because. No, yeah, it's the way people behave, right?
Yeah. So so that was my two things, probably long. The one I have for you is there a day in your life that would make a good movie plot? Is there a particular day, 24 hours in a day, that does events that have happened that you think would make like a John Hughes movie?
Gosh, you know what's hard about that question? You actually have to review. You know what I mean? You have to go back. And when we think about a John Hughes movie, you're thinking of like 16 Candles.
Yeah. Like there's support, like you're going to the prom, you're going
Fast Times at Ridgemont High or Clueless. Like I'm thinking of some of my favorite. I don't actually know. I have to give that a lot of thought. Because it has to have drama, it has to have all these. Right. It has to have an arc, and it has to have a crazy beginning and a funny ending, and something good has to happen in between, right? I'm stumped on that one.
Yeah, no, it's a tough one. I think it's tough because I think you could take bits and pieces and make it one thing, but you would say, oh, there was this moment, and this moment. But I think it's a tough question of, is there a day in your life that could be a great movie?
When I owned my. Either of my two agencies was specialized in advertising for the LGBT community for blue chip companies. I could turn any of the boardroom meetings I've sat through and some of the most insane questions I've been asked into a telenovela. I don't think it would be a movie, though, but it would be a telenovela. But I remember I was at a big financial insurance provider, and
is this the one in Boston?
It's in Boston, and it was a gorgeous conference room. It looked out over the river and everything, and all the suits and ties. There's this, and I'm giving this big presentation with big foam core boards and ads, and this one guy just lifts his finger up, just goes like this, and then finally I'm like, and he goes, "But we're actually talking about what we're really talking about here is men who have sex with men." I'm like, no, we're talking about relationships that people have, communities they build, partnerships. No. He goes, when we talk about LGBT, he goes, we're talking about men who have sex with men. And I'm like,
why does everybody boil
it down?
Boil gay and lesbian relationships down to sex. I don't boil a straight relationship down to sex.
That is the culture's discomfort with what is not what they think the norm. I mean, after years of doing this, I've come to the conclusion that the guy could have been wearing a pilgrim hat with a big buckle because that was
going out and equal.
Love making you laugh. He was a Puritan. It's like, here's the Puritan asking the question. So I eventually just stopped talking and I don't say anything. And he stares at me. I stare at him, and I'm starting to sweat. And we're in a suit and tie. And I said, I'm probably going to sacrifice the business by saying this. I said, but I'm amazed that you've achieved the level in corporate America that you have with such a foolhardy and stupid question. I said, you're asking a complete unknown person who's standing in your company, who now has the ability to walk out of your company and start bad-mouthing what you guys do. And I said, and if you don't believe the power of one voice, I said, I can't convince you in the power of a community. I said, so if you don't like... No, that's fine. It's fine. We'll do it. But, I just want to I want everybody in this room.
We wanted his point, right.
He wants everybody in the room to know that we're talking about men who are having sex with men.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, there you go. But that was not a movie day.
No.
That was not a day I would make into a movie.
So if you have a question you'd like John and I to answer, give us a call at 914-FOCUS-GR and leave a message. And if we use your question on air, you'll get a pair of our famous socks.
But time's a thief, Mr. Bennett.
It is always
It's been a very fun show. A big, big thank you to Aaron McHugh for taking the time to come in again. Again,
Our
I'm gonna
favorite.
do my fun thing with
You going to do a Carol Merrill?
See, political suicide. I got to figure out how the camera works. There we go. Political
John
suicide.
likes the way he looks on camera.
So I want to thank Aaron for coming in. Check out her book, Political Suicide. And also, like my teacher always said, like my mother always said, like my father always said.
Like Tim and John always say. Both pages in
full
full
color.
color.
Right for us. Hey, we want to thank Volkswagen of America for being our sponsor here on the show. They've been with us for about 7 years. One of our favorite cars is the Golf Sport Wagon. They're coming out with a new version of that car in the fall. It's the Golf All-Track, and Tim and I are huge fans of all-wheel drive. It makes a big difference in dry and wet weather, and we're going to want to give that car a proper shakedown, right? Everything we've heard about says they have a winner on their hands, so we're very, very pleased about that. So, stay good, folks, and we'll see you next week. And it's been the Focus Group, so thank you.
The Focus Group, an entertaining look at the outside of business. For your convenience, listen anytime, anywhere, anyway, anyhow, and on anything. Got it? Head over to focusgroupradio.com and pick your poison. We're all business, except when we're not.